All right, welcome to the CrossPoints podcast. My name is David Jones. I'm your host today, and I have with me one of our wonderful young leaders at CrossPoints Church, Mackenzie, not Eisenbrun.
Nope.
No longer. Mackenzie Abear for all of you out there. And so, Mackenzie, welcome.
Hi.
Hi, there she is. She's never done this before, folks.
I haven't. I've never been on a podcast ever.
I know. This is going to be awesome,
Very
though. Okay. Mackenzie, tell us what your role is here at CrossPoints Church.
Okay. Well, I am the new kids director as of June 1st.
Woo! CP CrossPoints Kids Director. Okay. So tell us what that means.
Well, I oversee the kids department.
Okay.
So I'm in charge of making sure Sunday mornings in the kids ministry are great. And then I also work with Pastor Nick on events and the overall kids department.
Okay, so kids department, some people out there are like kids are like could be anywhere from 1 to 20 depending on how old you are.
That's true. I am a kid.
So tell us, what do you mean by kids? What are the ages?
Anywhere from birth through 5th grade.
Okay,
is what I'm in charge of.
Birth through 5th. Okay, and we just finished doing an amazing, awesome redo in our kids space. So how have some of the families reacted going back there? Tell me. I mean, if you don't know, we were stuck in the 1980s. Seriously, in the 1980s. It hadn't been touched since the 80s, and we've just finished. We just finished. We spent over $300,000 redoing the back in there, and it looks beautiful.
Yeah, it does.
And so just curious if you had any response from some of the parents or other people.
Well, good responses.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, how about the kids? Do they like it?
Oh, yeah, the kids love it.
What's the kids' favorite thing?
I think overall the favorite would be the rock wall in the elementary room.
Yes, you heard that right, folks. We have a rock wall in one of the rooms. Pretty fun. Okay, so they like
the zip line.
And a zip. Can you believe it? They've got a zip line in there. So
yeah, it's really nice. But as a teacher, my favorite part is just how clean it is and how all the rooms look the same.
Yeah.
Not like the exact same, but like the transition from each room is just so much easier because it's all one cohesive element.
So good. Mm-hmm. So your teacher brain is like, this is so good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so you've been doing that since June, and now tell us, because as we redid the model and COVID hit and we shut down services and then we opened back up. So when does kids ministry take place? And if you're talking to a parent out there, when would they come? What would they do? How does that work?
Yeah. So right now we only have kids service during our 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock service,
so
okay.
Only our second service, but we do have an online service on Facebook and YouTube at 9 o'clock and 11, or you can watch it anytime during the week after that.
Oh, okay. So tell me real quick about, and then we'll dive into everything here, but tell us about the online stuff, because I know there's a lot of families that are not coming back to church yet.
Yeah.
So you guys have a full program? What is it? Tell me a little bit about it, yeah.
It's similar to what we do in person because we don't want the kids to miss out at all.
Okay.
So we do the same lessons and the same videos, and it's kind of interactive because we put worship songs in there that they can dance to, and the same video lessons that they would be watching in person.
Wow, that's very cool.
Yeah.
You guys do all that work for our kids because you love them. That's right. That's so good. Okay. Well, I've been walking through young leaders at CrossPoints Church, and we've been talking about core values at the church. And the core value we're going to talk about today is faith. Okay, faith. Think about that verse that says, without faith, it's impossible to please God. In other words, as Christians, we're required to have faith, because without faith, we can't please God. Okay? But there's different kinds of faith. We can talk about dead faith, great faith, living faith, a natural faith, supernatural faith, saving faith. There's all kinds of faith. So today, I wanted to talk about two kinds of faith in terms of our value at CrossPoints Church. The first is saving faith. Again, that's where we, as Christians, have kind of stepped over the line. We've come from darkness to light. All of us have made that decision. We've entered into what we call saving faith. So I wanted to hear your story about how you came to faith in Christ, and so we'll hear that. But then the other faith that I want to talk about is supernatural faith. There's not only just saving faith that we have when we accept Christ into our life, but also there's a supernatural faith. It's almost like a gift of faith that God gives us to believe in things that we can't see. And God says that when we have that kind of faith, that really pleases him. In other words, that faith puts a big smile on God's faith.
Yeah.
And I want to make God smile. I don't know about you. So, Mackenzie, we want to get to know you a little bit better. So tell us your story. How did you come to faith in Christ? What was your background? How did you grow up? Tell me all about that.
Okay.
Okay.
Totally. Well, I grew up in a Christian home.
Okay. Hey, little known fact. I know you just started.
Oh, yeah.
But I know her parents pretty well.
True.
Yes. Okay.
True.
Yes. We kind of grew up together in youth group and all that. So anyway,
Yeah,
grew up in a Christian home.
My parents are Mark and Corey Eisenbraun.
Shout out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Mom and Dad. Yeah, so I grew up in a Christian home, and we actually had ties to full faith, like you said, because you guys went to youth group.
Yep.
And my grandpa was, like, well-known here. So I kind of felt like I was part of the church from a very young age, even though we didn't go here until I was, like, later elementary school.
Right.
So through my entire childhood, I knew what it meant to give your life to Jesus.
Okay, right.
Because not only did I go to kids' church, but I went to the after-school Jesus club that we had at Blue Jacket Flint. I don't know if they still do it.
Okay, so Blue Jacket Flint, they have a program after school, the
Yeah,
Jesus Club or whatever. Okay, interesting.
15 years ago. But,
okay, well, I don't know.
So I went there once
Okay.
a week, and every single week they had, like at the very end of the service, they had a time where you could accept Jesus into your heart. And I was like, that's something I got to do.
Right.
Check it off the list. So I would do it every single week, and I'd come home and be like, Mom, look, I got the book. And she was like, you did that last week. But I don't.
You got all these books. You were like hiding them away. I got like 10 of them.
Yeah, I had a stash of them, you know?
A stash of books. That's awesome.
But I think I was doing that just to make sure I was doing it right.
Yeah.
Because I did not know what it meant. And
Sure.
looking back now, I understand that I didn't know what it meant.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
But there was something in you that was like, I know I need this.
Yeah.
Like that's a God implanted thing. Like there's this hole in your heart that's like, no, I need that. So
I don't
good.
know.
At
I
a
think it
young
was
age.
more, for me, it was honestly more like doing your homework.
Oh,
It was
interesting.
like, this is something I have to do.
Okay.
So I will do it.
This is required.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it happen.
But I didn't understand it.
Okay.
I didn't understand Jesus. I didn't understand any of it.
Okay.
Until I was like a freshman in high school.
Wow, so fast forward
Yeah.
quite a few years.
Many years.
Okay.
And at this point, I wasn't going to church at all because there was kind of that divide between I don't understand this to why do I need this?
Ooh,
Because
that's
if I didn't
interesting.
understand it, I didn't know what the point was.
Yeah.
And
Like why? That's the big question.
I felt like it was a one-sided relationship. Like I was doing all of this stuff for God. I was giving my life to Him.
Okay.
I was going to church, but I didn't feel the benefits of it. So eventually I just gave up on it completely.
You know what? I think there's a lot of people out there that are like that, right? They maybe grew up in some kind of a religious kind of background and they're checking off the list, but then they eventually go, what's the point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't feel it or if you don't see benefits, it is hard.
Totally.
But I guess that's where faith comes in.
Exactly, which is what we're talking about, which is a core value. So now you're in ninth grade, and there's a shift. What happens?
Yeah, well, my older sister was going to Zoe, our
Okay.
youth group.
Zoe
and
means life in Greek,
Yes,
and it's
Greek word
kind of
for
the
life.
youth group, Zoe.
Life and life to the full.
Life and life to the full. She still got it, folks.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But I wasn't going because, like I said, I just didn't care.
You're like, whatever.
And one spring break, Pastor Nick called my mom and said, hey, I know that Kinsey doesn't go to youth group here, but we have an open spot on our trip, and I want her to go.
Really?
And I said, a free week trip to California? Like, heck yeah.
Come on, sign me
And-
up.
Yeah. I mean, at first I was kind of hesitant. I was
Okay.
like, I don't want to go on a church trip. But Pastor Nick promised my mom, this isn't a Jesus trip. We're just going to California. And of course he was a liar.
Pastor Nick, we see you. That's awesome.
But, I mean,
okay.
he knew what he was doing.
Right.
So I went on the trip, and it was
Okay.
awesome. Made a lot of friends. And then at the
So you did have fun on the trip.
Yeah, it was an
Okay.
awesome trip.
Okay.
And on the very last day, one of
Okay.
the adult leaders, Aaron Dilly,
Okay.
who's now Aaron John.
Okay, yes. Shout out to Erin.
Hey.
Come on, you better be watching this, Erin.
I hope she does. Yeah, I'll text her. I'll tell her
do.
to.
Exactly.
But anyway, she said, hey, I want to talk to you.
Okay.
I was like, okay, you want to buy me lunch? Let's go.
Wow.
And we
okay.
talked, and we're
Uh-huh.
sitting in a Starbucks, and we're just having a good time. She's talking to me, like asking questions like, who are you? Tell me your story. And all of a sudden, she goes, okay, you know why I'm talking to you right now. And I was like, sure, okay. Like, are you going to tell me about Jesus? Because I don't want to hear it.
Did you really think that?
I did.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
And she said, Kinsey, I need you to know that God told me something about you. And
What did you think at that moment when she said that?
I was just shocked. She knew things that I had never told anybody.
Really?
She knew things like my deepest, darkest secrets that like, it just surprised me so much that she knew this.
Really?
And I was like, why do you know this? And she said, God told me, and I have to talk to you.
What?
And she told me that I was seen and loved by a God that I didn't even know and that I couldn't even fathom it. And so there I am, bawling in a Starbucks in the middle of nowhere.
Wow.
And Pastor Nick walks up to us and is like, hey, ladies, how's it going? And he looks at my crying face and he's like, I'll be back later.
I'll talk to you later.
But
so what was going through your mind? How were you feeling at that moment when she was speaking to you like that?
all I remember is that it was a love that I had never felt before.
That's good.
It was kind of the reassurance that there is a God,
Yeah.
He is real, and He does know you.
Yeah.
And all of the doubt that I had that had been accumulating over the years was just gone.
Wow.
It was like I'd never felt something more real than in that moment.
That's so cool. That's saving faith right there that just took place in your life because someone spoke something, right? Aaron, good job. Right?
Yeah.
Way to be being used by God. And then it was as a result of that, man, faith entered into your heart because you knew it was right and real.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was just that experience or that reassurance that I needed to just kind of place the Holy Spirit there.
Yeah. So, okay, so what happens after that?
So then I just started going to youth group. I
Okay.
made it my life.
Okay.
And
So you jumped all in.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
By my senior year, Wednesday nights were my favorite day of the week.
Oh, that's
Like,
awesome. Okay.
I just hated missing church. It just felt like the right thing for me. And I was just thinking about this last week, like how I loved going to youth group so much
Yeah.
that it was just who I became.
Yeah. Yeah.
And looking back, like it's kind of made me who I am now.
It's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool. I love to hear stories like that. So you had this saving, what we call saving faith moment in your life that really was a shift for you that put you on a different path than what you would have walked.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever thought about like where you would be right now had Aaron not had that conversation with you?
Oh, I honestly probably wouldn't be here.
Yeah, right.
It's crazy to think about.
That's the beauty of Jesus, right? Like he reaches down in our lowest moments and kind of just picks us up and says, "No, I've got something beautiful for you."
Yeah.
It's such a great thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, I wanted to shift now and talk just a little bit about like supernatural faith, like a faith that goes beyond just understanding that Jesus loves us, a supernatural faith that goes beyond the saving faith of saying, yeah, Jesus, I believe in you. You know, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son. Whoever believes in him won't perish but have everlasting life. God doesn't want you just to be saved so that you can go to heaven someday.
Right.
He wants you to be saved so that you can continue to trust him every single day.
Yeah.
Right? So I was asking you before we started the podcast, I was like, what was a time, and you haven't told me this, so I don't know the story, but I was asking, what's a time in your life where you actually moved beyond saving faith to kind of having a supernatural faith? And so tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things come to mind.
Okay.
Just like moments of healing, like
Yeah, okay.
CJ, my husband, has had a lot of surgeries. If you don't know him,
Okay.
he's had a lot of surgeries.
Well,
in his
okay,
life.
you brought that up, so now we have to talk about that. Okay, if you don't know, CJ and Kenzie, you guys just got married, when was it? In September?
September 19th.
September 9th, are still newlyweds.
Yeah.
All right, so that's kind of fun. And so tell us a little bit about CJ, so for the people that maybe don't know who he is.
Yeah,
And-
well, if you've been on Sundays, you've probably seen him playing the electric guitar. He's the guy with one leg. It's the
Okay,
easiest way to describe him.
Right, okay.
But he was born with one leg and
Okay.
bone tumors all over his body.
Yeah.
So he's had a lot of surgeries. And just in the time that we've been dating, engaged, and married, he's had, I don't even know, like how many times I've been in the hospital with him.
Wow. And how long were you guys dating before you got married?
Well, we dated a bit in high school.
Yeah, it's a long
But,
story.
yeah,
but
long
yeah,
story.
okay.
But I think we were dating about a year and a half before we got engaged.
Okay, yeah. And then you were engaged how long?
Almost a year.
Almost a year. So 2.5, 3 years.
Yeah.
And you said in that time he's gone through multiple surgeries.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've sat in the waiting room, and he always asks me if I'm worried because I've never had surgery. I've never had, like,
Right.
things wrong with me, really. I've always been healthy. And I've always told him I've never been worried because I know that he'll be okay. And even in the biggest surgeries that he's had, I'm never worried about it. And I think that's just kind of the faith that God will provide.
Absolutely.
Healing that God will provide. the doctors, whatever we need,
Yeah.
that everything will just be okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's supernatural faith.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people in your situation would be like really stressed out. Seriously. And so that's awesome to see that faith in you that pleases God, that puts a smile on his face in those little things. Seriously, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so that's CJ, and you guys have been married, and you kind of walked through some of that. What other areas would you say supernatural faith?
I think part of it is kind of like I've had that few years of being an unbeliever or a non-Christian, and just in high school learning to grow in faith and having this faith that was still kind of new and learning what that meant.
That's really good.
And the story I started telling you.
Okay, yeah, I haven't heard the whole thing, so okay.
I think I was a senior in high school, and I was driving home from like an orchestra concert, and it was freezing rain, but the window on my like 1996 Chevy Cavalier was stuck down. And I remember being so angry with God on my way home because it was just a horrible week, and I was frustrated, and I mean, you know that feeling when you're just like, everything is wrong.
Totally.
And so I was driving home, and I remember the exact street that I was on when I was just like verbally shouting at God and saying,
I love those moments.
Where are you?
Yeah.
And eventually I said something like, fine, I don't need you then.
Oh, wow.
And
you threw it down.
I did. And I've asked for forgiveness so many times. It was horrible. But I felt this act, like something physically changed when I said, I don't need you anymore. And I felt like just the world around me changed. And I was like, oh no, I've made a mistake.
Wow. Like you felt it.
Yeah. And so I got home and I was just crying, saying like, I don't know how to fix this. Like, I don't know what to do now.
Really?
And I think a couple days went by before I finally found myself like kneeling in my bedroom saying, God, I don't know what to do, how to fix this, but I need you. And I recognized that like, no matter what I did here on earth, I would never be able to survive or to thrive, more like it. I could survive without it, but I wouldn't be able to thrive.
That's good, yeah.
So I think just having those few days of recognizing I really do need God.
Wow. So you're in this moment, you're on your knees, and you're crying out, and what happens, like, just internally for you? How are you feeling, and what is God saying to you, do you think?
Well, I just remember being in front of my bed, like kneeling. Just for some reason, people
you're
do
old
that.
school on your knees.
I don't know why people do that.
I know we do it. That's good.
Bed.
That's right. It's a humble position. Yeah.
Just, I think that moment of humility was what God needed to say, like, it's okay. I am here.
Yeah.
And so I felt Him kind of come back into my life, and so that just caused me to cry more because it felt like just a hug, like from a father.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, that faith, from that moment on, like, that faith has not left me.
Interesting.
Because I now know what it's like to live without Him.
Yeah, yeah.
And I recognize that I do need Him.
Yeah. And obviously, that's probably what God's point was in the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you said you don't need me, fine, I'll step away.
I'll show you.
And we see God doing that throughout the Bible, you know.
Mm-hmm.
If people turn away from Him, God says, okay, have it your way. And He steps back.
Yeah.
And you experience that. Yeah. And I loved what you had to say, too, is that sometimes we think that once we have saving faith, we've checked it off the list and that's all we need. But our faith grows and matures over the years, right? It's not like we arrive. We prayed the prayer and it's all good.
Yeah.
We have these kind of 2 steps forward, 1 step back moments, right? Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. And so I think that's important for, I think, our audience to understand too, that, man, you're going to have days when you really feel really close to God and you got all the faith in the world. And sometimes you're like, man, what just happened?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. So you're in a new season now where you're married, and you are married to CJ, who has one leg, and there's obviously, I think, maybe some challenges that he might have there. And I know one of the things that, because I've had this conversation with CJ before, but I thought it would be kind of cool if you could share just a little bit. He has a tattoo on his arm and a scripture verse. And I think that I was just now thinking about that kind of ties into what we're talking about today. So CJ, we're going to kind of share your story. I know we weren't even planning on this, but I just now thought about it. That tattoo.
Yeah.
So tell about the tattoo that he has on his arm and how this relates to what we're talking about too.
Yeah. So I'm horrible with like memorizing references.
That's okay.
So
Just
I don't know
tell
where
a little
it
bit.
is.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
the verse says this happened so that the power of God could be seen through him.
Right.
And it's the story of how the man that was born blind, and everybody says, well, it must have been the sins of his father, the sins of his mother that caused him to be blind. But later on, he meets Jesus. He's like 20-something years old, and he's been blind his whole life. And Jesus encounters him and says, that verse, he says, this was done so the power of God could be seen through him.
It wasn't his fault. It wasn't his parents' fault. God had a purpose in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And CJ says that that's basically, like, he wants that to be the same concept for him.
Yeah.
It's nobody's fault. It's
Right.
nobody's genes. There's no reason for these things to happen to him.
Right.
But he's going to take his story and make it something worth it.
Yeah.
He's going to make, because, like, the way he says it is that if he was born with 2 legs and no bone tumors, he wouldn't have been able to be on TV. He wouldn't have been able to
Right.
have the passions that he has now to help kids with disabilities.
Right.
Because one of his dreams is to open a camp for kids that have disabilities that don't know how to handle it, or if they're born that way,
really
or
good.
if they have a surgery that causes them to be that way. And I think that he feels that way because of the kids he's seen in hospitals that have gone through his same procedure.
Yeah.
And just the hopelessness
Okay.
that them and their parents have.
I had no idea that he had that dream to do that, so that's really
Yeah.
cool to hear. Yeah.
So he wants to do that and to
Okay.
build prosthetics so
Yeah.
that people can have the hope that he learned to have.
Yeah.
And that's the way that the power of God can be seen through him.
That's cool. And the reason why I bring that story up too is because he had it tattooed on his arm, which to me demonstrates faith, recognizing that it wasn't an accident, right? It wasn't God's anger put upon me because I'm born with 1 leg or whatever. No, God's doing this for his glory.
Yeah.
And now you're stepping into his story, you guys together, right? So it's almost like you guys are on this faith journey that God has for you. And it's so cool. And you guys have been involved in the ministry here at CrossPoints. And I just love seeing kind of, our young leaders kind of stepping up and walking in faith. It's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very cool. So, okay, I'm going to ask you one more question, and then we do something that we do with all the young leaders where we ask them like 30 questions real fast so people get to know them a little bit better.
Yeah.
But tell me, what's maybe, and I haven't asked her this question yet, so it may take her a second to think about this. Okay. So what's one thing, you've been on staff here since when? You were promoted in June, but... Is that when you came on staff? I can't remember when you came on.
That's when I came on, like, officially on staff.
Okay.
But I was an intern
That's right.
for about a year.
Okay.
I think it was like August something of 2019 when I started.
Okay. So for those that maybe attend CrossPoints Church, what's the one thing you've learned kind of behind the scenes, behind the curtain at CrossPoints Church? So from the staff to how we work to whatever, anything that pops to mind. What's
Well, there's 2 things.
Okay,
that
2
first come to
things.
mind.
I love it. Okay.
Behind the scenes, it's just how much joy there is, like,
Okay.
between the staff. Like,
Yeah.
in the offices, like, it might look like just, like, some bland offices behind a gray door. But, like, I promise you, like, you can never begin to understand the relationship that the staff has and the joy that they have in all of their positions, like, whatever they're doing, until you're actually a part of it. And
I love to hear that.
pretty much every day.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm just amazed.
Seriously,
Like,
it's so good.
like, just going out every Monday to get lunch together as part of fellowship, which is, like, my favorite part of the week.
I
And-
love meals are always good. Yes.
Well, just the fellowship.
Yeah,
just
and it's
being
that
with each other.
interaction with each other.
It
yeah.
doesn't feel like we're coworkers. It feels like
Right.
we're all friends going through life together.
That's good.
But we have a purpose here.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So that's one of my favorite parts.
Okay.
And then also, I've realized how important volunteers are.
Ooh.
Like-
Okay, stare into that camera and
It's
tell them what
important.
you mean by that.
Well, there was one Sunday,
Okay.
I think, we were quarantined from COVID.
Right. Okay.
And pretty much the entire staff, besides like Pastor Nick and you,
Yeah.
I think we're the only
We were
actual staff
we were the
members.
only staff members here because everybody else had been exposed and we weren't at that lunch or whatever that everybody was
Yeah.
at. Yeah.
And the next week, Joel King came up to me and he said, "Man, you don't realize how much the staff does until they're gone." And I said, Joel, I would argue that the volunteers of the church are what make the church run, not the staff.
Woo! Say that again. Say
It's
that
true.
again.
The
Yeah.
volunteers are what
Okay.
make the church run.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah, for
obviously,
sure. For sure.
if you only have 2 staff members, church will go on. But if, Blake Newsom didn't step up to do worship, or
Right.
if all the volunteers in the kids ministry weren't still there, it wouldn't have happened.
Totally true. And we ran church with just 2 staff members.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
I love my job. I want to stay here.
Don't take over her position. But your point is so good. It's like, man, we cannot do the ministry without you. That's why really we're all in this together. It's the family of God working together to
Capital C church.
The capital C church, the big C church, right? Yeah, so fun. Anyway, so if you're volunteering, thank you so much for all that you do. Yeah, she's awesome. So, okay, one more thing before we get to the questions. If somebody wanted to help with the kids ministry, do you need any roles or everything filled and you're all good?
You know what?
Tell me.
Oh, I'm totally kidding. Please. No,
so you're saying you could use some help?
Oh, always. We can always use help.
Great.
I think one of the biggest things that the kids ministry needs is not only volunteers just to be there because they need a teacher, but because the atmosphere is so different. Like, if there's one teacher in a room, sure, the lesson can get done, and the kids are okay, they're safe, they learn something about Jesus. But when there's 3 people leading worship, and somebody doing the Bible story, and somebody playing a game with them, and the whole atmosphere is just different because you can tell there's people that want to be there.
Yeah. And those kids see that.
Oh, yeah.
And they feel it.
It's true.
Yeah, it's good. So if somebody says, man, I don't know, I'm not a teacher, can you really use me? What if I can't? I mean, I'm not good up front in front of people.
Oh, yeah. We can use people of all different types.
Oh, okay.
Teachers, worship leaders, checking people.
So you're saying pretty much if you're breathing, you can find a spot for them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, I encourage you. We're going to put a link below in the description, and we'll give you Kenzie's information so that you can get in touch with her, and you would be happy to chat with them.
More than happy.
Even if they're just maybe they're not sure they want to sign on the dotted line, but they want some information, you'd still chat with them.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, that's awesome. All right, well, we've come to the time in the program. Are you ready?
I think so.
Okay, buckle your seats, and here we go. Okay, what's the farthest you've been from home?
Taiwan.
Oh, yeah, good trip. What's your favorite sound?
Oh, yeah, you asked me that. I
did. I gave her 2 questions ahead of time.
The sound of a full string orchestra.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned you played in the orchestra. What's your instrument did you play?
I play the viola.
Viola.
Which I'm looking for a place to play, so if you're a part of a community orchestra, let me know, because I miss my viola. Haven't played since college.
Really? We should get you on stage playing the viola sometime.
I did once with Pastor John here.
Did you?
When he was the worship leader. It was interesting.
Maybe. Oh, it was interesting. That's good. Okay, here we go. Moving on. Okay, what TV show that's on right now that you like to watch? Or a Netflix series or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, CJ and I just finished The Good Place.
The Good Place.
It's hilarious.
The Good Place. Okay, I love it. Okay, what's a talent you hope your kids inherit from you?
Music.
CJ
and I are both musical.
You guys are both musical, that's true.
So I hope that they are too.
Okay. What's your favorite movie in the last 5 years?
In the last 5 years?
I know. Or the last, whatever, several years.
I don't know. I'm not really a movie person.
Really? Okay.
Like, I'll watch it, but... Oh, in the last 5 years, I don't know.
And nothing's coming to mind?
I like the Avengers ones.
Okay, so the Avengers films.
The last
you've
one,
liked that, yeah.
Endgame, that was really good.
Okay, all right, we'll take that one. Okay. What movie have you watched? Well, you said you're not big into movies, but what movie have you watched that you thought, man, I'm never going to get that time back?
Ooh. I probably forgot it for a reason, so. There's definitely been a couple. Like I said, I'm horrible at movies.
All right, well, we'll move on. We'll move on if you can think about it. Okay. If you were an animal, what would you be?
I think I'd be a tiny dog.
A tiny dog. Okay. What's your favorite board game?
I like card games.
Card games, okay. Yeah?
Just pretty much any card game.
Any card game, okay. What's one of your pet peeves? Something that just drives you crazy.
People like breathing or chewing really loud.
Oh.
For no reason.
For no reason? Just like irritates you? Okay. What's the first thing you noticed about someone when you meet them?
Probably where their eyes go. Because I'm always self-conscious about, like, I can't look people in the eye for very long. So if somebody's, like, not looking me in the eyes, or if they are looking me in the eyes, that's, like...
I'm going to start staring at you in the eyes from now
on. I'm always
on.
thinking about it.
That's awesome. Okay. Who's a celebrity you think you'd like to be friends with in real life?
Probably Probably Zendaya.
Zendaya.
So cool.
Okay, cool. Okay. What's the chore you hate doing the most?
The dishes.
Yes. Yes
Gross.
and amen. That and the laundry right here. Okay. Who's your favorite superhero?
Hawkeye.
Hawkeye. Ooh, that's a good one. Okay. What color is your toothbrush?
Purple.
Purple.
That's such a random
good.
question.
I know, exactly. Okay. What did you eat for breakfast this morning?
I did not eat breakfast.
She did not eat.
I
She
had a cup
needs
of coffee once I got to work.
coffee. Yes. Okay. All right. And the last one. What is your least favorite beverage?
Hot tea.
Which I'm drinking. Which I'm drinking right now, folks.
I only drink it when I'm sick because that's what my mom always made me do.
So it reminds you of being sick whenever you think of tea.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Tea is so good.
I'm a coffee person.
I got it. Yes, the coffee person. Well, Mackenzie, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for asking me to be here.
It's been so awesome. So we want to challenge you with some of our core values. Not only that you'd have saving faith, but you'd walk in supernatural faith, whatever you're going through, and recognize that faith grows and matures over time. It doesn't mean that you continue to just hang back, but you continue to go for the things that God has, even when you can't see them. So,
It's true.
All right. We'll see you next time on the CrossPoints podcast.
Bye.